What do you do when you hear voices down the hall? What do you do when you see a shadow in your room? What can you say when you see eldritch lights in the sky? Do you have the strength to believe in the unbelievable? To embrace the impossible? To go beyond the beyond? Join my friend as we explore the dark corners of the cosmos. Welcome to the Beyond Paranormal podcast. It's been about 2 weeks since we've done this together, and there are a bunch of reasons why. Basically because I'm manning my own ship here, and it's a lot more difficult to do than the other podcast. But also, it also means I get to do it anytime I want to. So I thought today would be a really good way to do it. Today we're going to talk about ghosts. We're going to talk about spirits. I am going to tell you the different kinds of spirits there are. I'm going to tell you some secrets about them, and then we might tell some ghost stories. And then there's something I want to bring up with you guys that me and my old team, we used to talk about all the time, and I want to talk about this to you too. Any of you remember this, contact me. I'm talking about the old teammates in USEP. Anyhow, let's start with ghosts. So you've heard the story of the old haunted house. Every night at 3 a.m., a woman in white is seen walking down the stairway. Okay, that's cool. But does this really happen? Well, yeah, it seems it does. It's a really strange thing. See, there's three kinds of what we call ghosts, and I say ghosts loosely. Remember, all of this phenomena, we have no idea what it is. So, in 100 years, this might all change. Anyhow, your types of ghosts are, you have your residual ghost, you have your intelligent ghost, and then there's some other things. But mostly we're going to look at residual, and we're going to look at intelligent. We might jump a little bit into poltergeists. So what is a residual spirit? As parapsychologist Lloyd Auerbach is apt to say, is it live or is it Memorex? So basically, a residual spirit is this. It's that spirit in which you hear about that shows up every night at 3 a.m. But there might be a lot more things going on with this than just the spirit of the dead. See, usually residual spirits are not what you would call intelligent. In fact, I don't even know if we can call them spirits at all. What it seems to me to be is some kind of anomaly that is able to loop history back and forth. Now, what does that mean? That means that somehow when we go into a location and we have a lot of sorrow, the environment can feel that. And what do I mean by feel that? Well, what I mean by that is that somehow the environment itself picks up on those emotions and plays it kind of like a movie screen. So when you see that lady at 3 a.m. in the morning, well, the thing is that that's not really her. That's an impression of her. Now, that's not always the case, because if the spirit at 3 a.m. looks at you or acknowledges you, then we're on to a whole different thing called an intelligent haunting. Now, intelligent haunting seems to be just that, a spirit who is intelligent enough to try to speak with us, with who we are. So the intelligent haunting is the type of spirit that you see or you speak to when you go into an actual haunting. If I go into a place and I've heard that the spirit has been trying to communicate with others, then I know that what I'm talking to is something that is intelligent and very well might be the spirit of the dead. Now, I don't know this for a fact. It's possible, but that's one of the theories out there. So The intelligent spirit is the one that we think of commonly as ghost. Residual is not what we commonly think of as ghost. It's a recording, usually. Now that brings us to one more category, and this is the weirdest one because now we're jumping into parapsychology here. Poltergeist. What's poltergeist? Well, poltergeist in German means noisy spirit. And it depends if you're listening to the show outside the US or in the US, because different countries have different ideas for these names. But in the United States, a poltergeist is not, again, it's not a spirit at all, though all the phenomena can mimic a spirit. So what do I mean by that? Well, a poltergeist is usually controlled by what we call a poltergeist agent. Now, what is a poltergeist agent? Well, usually it's just a normal person who's usually extremely stressed out, who's angry, who's very sick, someone whose life has gotten completely away from them, and they have no way to release it. So if a person who is psychic has psychic abilities and has no way to release all of this energy, then what happens is, we call it a poltergeist effect, is that a haunting might occur, but it's not a haunting, you see. What the poltergeist is basically the psychokinesis, PK, which means it's mind over matter, basically, and that these people are actually causing their own haunting without even knowing what the hell is going on. Now, so you see, they're not at fault. They're completely at fault, but they're not at fault. This is completely subconscious. So a really good example of a poltergeist is the most famous entity case who was researched by Dr. Barry Taff back in the 70s. The entity case was this woman who claimed she was being sexually assaulted by spirits. Well, what's interesting is that what she said was that she's being sexually assaulted by two spirits that looked exactly like her sons. Well, she was having lots of tension with her sons. So what happened is that, or what Barry Taff thinks happened, what the theory is that because she couldn't release any of the pain of her life, she would create these situations in which what it seemed like spirits that look exactly like her son would attack her. Now, that's not all that happened in this house. There were green fireballs that would go around, and this happens occasionally. Sounds, people were scratched, all your typical stuff that comes from like what you would call a demonic haunting, except this wasn't a demonic haunting. This was this poor lady trying to deal with her with her pain, basically. And that manifested itself as what it seemed to be spirits, but it wasn't spirits. It was just her using PK. Now, those are the three kinds of hauntings. Let's give examples for both. Okay, so the residual haunting, is it life or is it Memorex? The residual haunting basically is that spirit that you hear shows up at 3 a.m., or you can hear music, or you can you can smell things, but it's not really there. A good example for this, a really cool residual haunting that I was a part of. There's a place in Utah called Salt Air. Salt Air is a music hall. It's been there forever. It's been there since the 20s, but they seem to build it like after every 30 years because the damn thing has burned down twice. There was a lot of stuff that happened on this investigation, but there was one thing I remember more than anything. So it's probably about 12:30 in the morning. We turned out all the power to the music venue, and me and Cammie and Kathy, who were my partners and hopefully eventually I can get them on this show, because we have war stories, and I'd love to hear their if they remember this as well. So anyways, it's dark, and we all of a sudden we hear the faintest sound of ballroom music. Now keep in mind that all the power in the place was off. There was nothing going, there's nothing outside except for the water, but we heard ballroom music, and it didn't sound like modern ballroom music. Oh no, this sounded like music from the 1920s or 1930s. And so this, I would call, this was residual, because this wasn't a spirit, but this place, being a music hall, has put in so much energy that at night you can hear the past. And anyone who ghost hunts and anyone who goes out there and hunts these things knows this, because they've experienced it. Often we hear like footsteps in the hall. Well, those footsteps aren't they aren't intelligent. Almost most of the time, those would be residual. There's no footsteps there, but somebody back 100 years ago would walk that hallway every single day. I was told this in one of my classes, because I used to take parapsychology classes. And this was a case that happened in Florida, and I believe Lloyd Auerbach has it in one of his books. But he would always use this as an example, and it's a great example. So there's this family that moves into this house, and it's somewhere in the Middle West. They move into this farmhouse, and what happened was that the people who used to live there before was this old man, and he moved to Florida. He was still alive, but about 6 a.m. usually every morning, the father would go down to the bathroom, and he would see the old man, who's still alive, brushing his teeth. Now, what does that mean? How could a man be a ghost who's still alive? Well, there are possibilities there, but the one I want to talk about is that this wasn't a ghost at all. This is what we call a residual apparition. And the reason why he would show up is not because he was dead and trying to haunt this family. It wasn't him at all. It's because that every morning at 6 a.m., this guy would, like clockwork, brush his teeth. So what happened? All that energy flows out to the universe, and somehow it plays back. And so this family sees this guy brushing his teeth. Now, another aspect I want to bring up is that the thing about ghosts is that in a way we help create the ghost. And what I mean by that is that us people with certain psychic abilities, even if they're left dormant, and you see a ghost, well, the ghost has no body, so the ghost has to be using telepathy. And it touches, in my opinion, and what I've seen is it touches people who have psychic abilities, and then they are able to see it. Now, does this thing have weight? Does it have mass? Well, that's a good question, because if what we're looking at are mental projections, and that's what we are talking about, our mental projections, then no, they wouldn't have weight or mass. However, we have seen spirits pick up things. And I've personally felt spirits poke me, and I've once had a spirit rip a light off my head. So, do spirits have mass? Well, maybe, maybe not. But there's a lot of ideas that spirits need someone like a human being to be in the room before that triggers the haunting. Now, I'm not going to say this is absolutely what it is. I'm just saying that this is what it could be. All right. So, yeah, the old man, he lived in Florida. He's still in Florida, and but he would be seen brushing his teeth hundreds of miles away every single day. That is the example of residual haunting. Another really good example of residual hauntings, and this happens all over the world, are battlefields. Okay, so either maybe you or a friend were walking across Gettysburg one night, and while you're doing that, you hear the sounds of the battle. You hear the gunshots, you hear the cannon shots. You see in the distance Confederate and Union soldiers walking up a hill. Okay, so this is phenomena that has been reported at Gettysburg and at many of the Civil War battlefields. So what is this? Well, again, we're talking emotional trauma. We're talking somehow the emotion is so much that the environment reads into it somehow and plays it back. And just like a videotape or DVD or YouTube, you get to see what was in the past. That is residual hauntings. And residual hauntings can't hurt you. And there are ways to get rid of it, though I've never tried this, but I have to. I have heard that way to get rid of a residual haunting is to use a degausser. And some very good people have said that. So if we can take away that magnetic energy with a degausser, and that takes away the residual haunting, then what does that say about the haunting? Interesting, huh? Yeah, I think so too. So there's all you have on residual hauntings. Let's step to the next plate. And these are the second most, the most popular hauntings. This is called an intelligent haunting. Now, intelligent hauntings means just that, is that whatever we are dealing with here seems to be intelligent and will communicate with us. There's several good examples of this from my experience. When I was about, oh gosh, how old was I? Well, it was in 2004. I was followed home by a spirit, and I would consider this intelligent because this spirit I would see the spirit. Spirit would slam doors. The spirit would try to talk to me, and the spirit was very sad, and the spirit would come to me in my dreams. And this spirit was definitely intelligent because she needed help. And eventually, long story short, after being scared out of my mind, I crossed the spirit over. Now, let's flash forward about a year later, and the spirit came back to me, and spirit told me I wanted to tell you who I am. And okay, I think I'm going nuts. Well, when the spirit was there, I would often see her in my mind's eye. I mean, like fully see her face. I wouldn't see her, when she was walking, she'd be a shadow, that kind of thing. Anyhow, I was brought to this website, and I saw the face of my my spirit, and I knew who she was, and she was a teenager who was killed, and that's an intelligent haunting. Intelligent hauntings act exactly like humans, and they can be very sad things to deal with too. Just know, if you're going to go ghost hunting and you're going to go into those experiences, then you have to know that you're going to be dealing sometimes with some very negative energy. And not even negative energy, you're going to be dealing with some very sad energy. So you have to know how to cope with that, because you are dealing with beings who might need your help. And the way we do this is we talk to them. I always say that being a ghost hunter is part being a paranormal psychologist, and the fact that I will try to communicate with the spirits, try to find out what they want, and then try to talk them out of scaring whoever they're haunting, especially if it's an intelligent spirit. And it's 50-50 whether they want to go into the light or not. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But you should always try, because the spirit needs your protection and needs your help. So if you are doing the good work and if you are ghost hunting, well then you need to keep that in mind, because it's not always fun and game and puppies. All right, so the next category, and I'll give some example. I already gave examples for poltergeist cases. Now, poltergeist cases are the most rare. They happen the quickest. They usually go on from about 2 months to a year being the longest. Though there have been cases, including the entity case, where this thing went on for like 12 years. But usually they don't take that long. Great way to get rid of the poltergeist case is to separate the family members, find out where the activity is going against, then try to find out what is the problem with whoever the family member is. This is a great story, and again, I learned this in class. And it details what a poltergeist case is. It's that there was once this kid, and I'd say he was about 12 or 13. I believe this was in San Francisco. That's another thing that Auerbach said, in which basically this kid was being forced to go on the swimming team, and he didn't want to do that for whatever reason. So what happened was that um, droplets of water started appearing. They started dropping off the ceiling. They started dropping off of the. They're on the floor, and they would appear in midair. And basically, what they found out is that this was like the water of tears. And it was the water of tears of the little boy. He was kept being pushed into this and pushed into this, pushed into this. Well, when the investigators got there, they talked to the little boy about that. Little boy went into counseling, and his parents weren't such jerks, so they were able to get rid of that poltergeist thing. And poltergeist things, yeah, can be that small. You know, anything that looks like a haunting can be a poltergeist experience. In fact, there's great disagreement over different factions between parapsychology and more religious factions regarding what we call demons. That demons might just be poltergeist cases, because the apparitions in a poltergeist case can take the form of mythic creatures, and it always seems that the entity or the whatever it is always connected to one single person. And if you get that person to accept what is inside of them and accept the experience, then you can get rid of the poltergeist case. Okay, so that's poltergeist cases. So anyways, those are the kinds of ghosts that we know of. There's many other kinds of phenomena, and like astral travelers, pretending to be spirits. There's UFO connections. There's things like that. There are possibilities like that. But this is just the beginning. This is giving you a crash course in the three kinds of spirits. Now, next thing I want to talk about, and this is kind of cool. And again, me and Kathy and Cami used to talk about this all the time, was why do we encounter so many child spirits? Okay, so you go into the hospital, to the old abandoned hospital, and you're walking around, and you're doing your EVP, you're waiting 10 seconds, you're saying, any spirit want to communicate with me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you get what sounds like a child spirit. Okay, we can think the world is very cruel, that children get turned into ghosts just like us people, and they're lost and they don't know what they're doing. And that might be the case for a few. And again, we might be dealing with residual child spirits. But there's another possibility, and this is the one that I believe, and this is the one I've tested, and it seems to be the case. So, when we are spirits, we are able to take whatever form we want within reason. And I think mostly we can take the form of what we were in life. So, let's say that Mike dies of a heart attack on October 22nd. He dies, but his happiest times of his life was when he was 8. The Mike didn't have that great of a life. It was just a sad life for him. But when he was 8, everything was perfect. So what does Mike do? Okay, so Mike's now stuck in the haunted hospital. Can't get out. Or can he? We don't know. It depends. So what does Mike do? Well, Mike takes on the form of a little boy because Mike remembers what he was as a little boy. And now that he has died, now that he cannot go on, he takes the form that he's most comfortable with. We see this with ghosts all the time. We see the fact that Grandpa was 80 years old and he's coming to his family members 30 years old. The thing is that spirits can transform themselves. So when it's a child ghost, then it's very possible that it is not a child ghost. They may act like child ghosts, but that just might be Mike, wanting to be 8 years old again. And this is something I think that we in the paranormal community need to discuss and think about. And we need to test this. We need more testing to see if this is even a possibility, because all the testing that I've done, that seems to be the case. And with all this, ladies and gentlemen, you test this yourself. You come up with your own ways of investigating, and you see what works for you. Well, we're almost done with this podcast. 30 minutes is pretty good. Anyways, I want you to know that this will be up on the Geeks with Attitude website, hopefully in a couple of days. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want out of this podcast. And very soon, I'm going to hook up Skype to this, and we're going to have guests. I know a lot of people in the paranormal community, and there are a lot of stories we can share that are going to be kind of awesome. And if you want to be a guest on the Beyond the Beyond Paranormal podcast, please contact me. I would love to have you. If you're an investigator, we can talk war stories. If you're writing a book, I'll help plug your book. But really, I just want good philosophical talk about the paranormal. And so contact me at beyondthebeyondpodcast@yahoo.com. You can get me on Twitter at geeks at /geeks at twitter.com. I don't have a Facebook for Beyond the Beyond set up, but I'm working on it. And I think we're probably going to do this every Saturday, or try to get it out around that time. We'll have this be the weekend show. So tell me what you think, and I will say goodbye and have spooky dreams. Goodbye.